And may I therefore call this 1156th meeting of the Peace and Security Council at the level of heads of state and government to order. H.E. Assoumani, President of the United Comoros, Chairperson of the African Union, and distinguished participants. Good afternoon, all of you. Your Excellencies, you will recall that on the 16th of April, under the chairmanship of the Republic of Tunisia, the Peace and Security Council held an emergency meeting to consider the situation in the Sudan after the outbreak of deadly fighting between the Sudan Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces. The fighting in the Sudan stems from, among other things, a disagreement between the army and the Rapid Support Force about how the Rapid Support Force should be integrated into the armed forces. The transition period of that integration, the length, and what authority should oversee that process. In our view, this apparently sticky issue of the time required to merge warring functions into the national army can be determined scientifically, considering known and or agreed upon parameters, such as the health of the potential candidates, education, training, or the age of the personnel. Using this to fight for just that argument is, in our view, wrong, and we condemn it. This business of how to integrate armies is not new. We have done it. We have done it in many parts of Africa, including here in Uganda. It cannot be a reason for starting such a devastating war. The transitional authorities had made a lot of progress towards the return to constitutional order. They had agreed to a political framework agreement which provided for a transitional period of 24 months upon the appointment of a civilian prime minister and the withdrawal of the military from the transitional government institutions and other elements agreed on. Therefore, the eruption of fighting in Khartoum was a major setback of the positive steps that had already been made. Since the conflict broke out on the 15th of April, there have been many attempts at brokering a ceasefire. However, it has remained elusive. There is unnecessary loss of lives. The humanitarian situation continues to deteriorate, and there is gross violation of international law, international humanitarian law, and international human rights law. The UN Office for the Coordination of the Humanitarian Affairs estimates that by the 19th of May 2023, over 936,000 people had been newly displaced by the conflict since the 15th of April. This includes 736,000 internally displaced while 200,000 have crossed the border into neighboring countries. We salute the government of Ethiopia and other neighboring countries, such as South Sudan, Egypt, and Chad, among others, for facilitating the safe passage and the reception of the people fleeing the fighting. The Peace and Security Council meeting of the 16th of April condemned the fighting and called for an immediate ceasefire without preconditions and a swift return to the negotiating table. The chairperson of the African Union Commission was requested to continue using his good offices to engage with the parties to the conflict in order to facilitate dialogue and peaceful resolution of the conflict. The Commission was also requested to regularly brief the Council on the implementation of its communique adopted on the 16th of April 2023. I have been informed that on the 20th of April 2023, the chairperson of the Commission convened a ministerial special session on Sudan with a view to causing a de-escalation of the conflict and facilitating a humanitarian corridor. Other initiatives have taken place, including the meeting of the IGAD heads of state, which was held on the 16th of April 2023, where IGAD appointed the presidents of Djibouti, South Sudan, and Kenya to mediate between the warring parties. Other key actors have also been engaged on this matter, including but not limited to the League of Arab States, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the United States of America, etc. In my own engagements with the two parties who sent me special envoys, I reiterated my early advice that they should do away with the politics of identity and concentrate on the politics of interest. I informed them that a ceasefire is critical to allow peace for people to elect their leaders as owners of the country. The country does not belong to the Sudan army, it belongs to the people. It does not belong to the other group, the rapid group. It belongs to the people of the Sudan. Therefore, an unconditional and immediate cessation of hostilities to stop the tragedy and mockery of Africa is of utmost importance. Excellencies, a number of multiple processes and mechanisms have been put in place, which is in a way is a demonstration of the deep commitment of both the region and the international community to do something about the Sudan. However, it also calls for harmonization and coordination of efforts to avoid duplication and overlap. The Commission has set up what has been characterized as the expanded mechanism on the Sudan to try and develop measures leading to a cessation of hostilities and a resumption of the political process. As a result, a de-escalation plan has been proposed and circulated for your consideration. We shall shortly listen to His Excellency Musa Faki Muhammad, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, who will speak about this plan in his remarks. In considering this plan, we need to have a deeper reflection on whether we could have done more as a Council to avert the current developments in the Sudan. Perhaps this would inform Council on how to engage with other countries in political transition. I also wish to suggest that you consider the idea of appointing a high-level facilitator or panel of facilitators who would work with the Sudanese civilian and political actors to design an inclusive process of engagement towards a civilian democratic transition. As I indicated earlier, we have used this approach in IGAD. We may use it again as best practice. We also need your reflection on the following. What nature and scope of a ceasefire do we envisage? 2, how do we monitor and verify the said ceasefire? 3, how can we help cause the resumption of negotiations and the political process? 4, what is the role of external actors in either helping to halt or in fueling the same, and what can we do about it? 5, what sort of coordination mechanism do we envisage to manage all these mechanisms and processes in order to avoid overlap, duplication of effort, and promote coherence? 6, how can we deal with conflict financing and the proliferation of arms? I thank you, and I call upon you to adopt the agenda. The agenda has got a few items: opening, consideration and adoption of the draft agenda, which is this one, briefing on the situation in the Republic of the Sudan, any other business, and closing. 5 points. Adopted, disengagement, where the forces withdraw from especially the populated areas and go to some agreed areas, and then dialogue. The main reason for the ceasefire and political dialogue is trying to answer the question: if you are fighting to gain the upper hand on the other group, even if you win, are you going to run the country, to run Sudan as a dictatorship or what? If you win, you will have to go for elections. So, why not stop the fighting and the killing and go for elections? Unless you don't want to have elections. That can only be the reason why you avoid the cheap way of referring the political arguments you are having to the Supreme Court of Sudan, which are the people of the Sudan. These are the ones who can decide through a vote that we want this or want that. When we had to fight in Africa in the past, it was because we had people who blocked our right to elections. That was the only reason.
Through the continental leadership and to give complete sense and meaning to the paying African solution to African problems. I thank you for your time.
I thank His Excellency. I now invite His Excellency, the President of Egypt, President Sisi, to make remarks.